Welcome, everyone, to Electronic Talks Podcast, episode 29. I'm your host, Johannes, and I'm very proud to have this guest today calling in from Melbourne, Australia. It's Sonny Ism. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry for being late. I'm late for this interview. But yeah, stressed out, lacking sleep from being a new dad. But no, I'm good. Life's good. Can't complain. Yeah.
Well, big congrats on the fatherhood. From
Yes.
what I
Thank you.
understand, that's also a very big inspiration in your music right now, I would guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe
It has
before we
been.
head into that, we could also go back in time a little bit because even though you're calling in from Melbourne right now, you actually have a history with the Nordic music scene. So
Yeah.
back in 2020, actually, your first album, Union Integration of the Shadow, was released in Denmark. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I at the time um uh was living in Copenhagen in 2000 and um 16 or 17, I think it was the start of 2016 maybe. I moved to Copenhagen,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I was like trying to. I had just moved from Melbourne after being in a pretty successful like indie pop band, you could call it, in
Yeah.
Australia. Um, we actually toured. Uh, we played at Debasis Lucen in like 2011, and um, toured around Scandinavia and Germany and stuff. So yeah, I kind of fell in love with Copenhagen and um, was living there, and yeah, released. That was my first record in 2020. It was kind of a shame actually because I finished it and um, we just started the sort of like album campaign in the December of that year, and COVID, I think, broke out
Ah, I see. Yeah.
in January. So it kind of really destroyed the reach of that record. I couldn't play any shows to support the release of it. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of frustrating. So
Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah.
just going from the album title, it's very interesting. What was the whole concept of your first album? I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
integrating
like,
shadow, and it sounds like something psychological, or what was it?
yeah. Do you know about this concept, the Jungian
Not too much, but I
psychological?
know that like within psychology, you have a shadow self, right? Is it related to that?
Yeah. Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about um, accepting like the worst parts of yourself, like, which is kind of called the shadow. Well, like there's different, I mean, that's the interpretation of it, but my interpretation of it is like that there's aspects of the ugliest parts of who you are.
Mhm.
And once you can like accept them and learn to like coexist with them
Yeah.
and refine who you are as a person, um, it's like, you're at like neo level, or whatever, like you're kind of like becoming more whole and like just a better person. So
Mhm.
union meant like the coming together of the shadow, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of that was connected to the fact that it was my first album as Sonny Ism, but it was not my first music. Like I'd put out 3 EPs prior to that, and it was all just dance music. It was all just underground, like house, deep house, whatever,
Mhm.
with no vocals because I didn't want to sing. Like I really, I really like had fallen out of love with like writing songs, like, and making tracks was more interesting to me at the time. So, um, and the band that I was in was like very popular in Australia.
I see.
Um, uh, like there's actually a gold record there from that band. But this
Oh,
is actually my dad's office. I'm at his house at the moment.
okay. So,
But because I don't want this in my house. but but um
well,
but
what was the name
uh
of the band actually?
It was called Gypsy and the Cat.
See on the cat.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So
But now you're
um,
you're releasing your first album, and you're in Denmark as well. Could you describe that
yeah.
a little bit for me? And you said you couldn't really promote the album, but what kind of feedback did you get, and how did you proceed after releasing that album?
Um, yeah, like, I mean, there's so many emotions around that time because like it was actually a really beautiful time because I just sort of like moved in with Yulia, who like is my wife, and she's from Malmö and she was living there, and like she would like travel over to Denmark and go to university. And so we met in Copenhagen. And so there was a part of COVID that I liked because we got to be intimate with each other all the time and spend time together. And
Mhm.
the interference of life wasn't there.
Mm.
It was just, we just had each other.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really cool. But yeah, like on the musical side, professional side, just as a professional musician, it was absolutely heartbreaking. Like I feel like maybe I don't feel like my music's ever recovered from that time, to be honest. Like actually, like we're just my career as a musician.
Mm.
Like I think I'm still working through, uh, like the jungle or the shrub, like of just like what was left, like of the music scene or the club scene or the live music scene, even
Mm.
after those 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
But would you say,
good but frustrating.
yeah, of course. But would you say that like your musical past from the band, etc., flowed into this record sound wise, or what would you how you would you describe your journey into creating your own sound as a solo artist in this case?
So for the union integration of the shadow, like that was more, yeah, as I was saying before, like that was me um finally, like, because I hate my voice. Like it's really hard to explain, but this band was really successful, but I hated the music to some degree. Like I liked what we did because I like writing pop music.
Hmm.
That's a different pursuit, but um I hated how I sounded. Like I have a very high pitched voice when I sing. I can sing in falsetto, like the Gibbs, the Bee Gees kind of thing. And so we had that kind of like MGMT style, electric field type aesthetic to the vocals. But like the integration of the shadow thing was about like accepting that maybe there's some good stuff about that, and I need to start developing it, uh, like meshing it into what I'm doing in the electronic space. And I found that was interesting. So that could have influenced the album in like, okay, you can write songs, that craft.
Hmm.
You need to start, integrating that into this album. And so
Yeah.
it did influence the record because there were verses and choruses instead of just, peaks and falls and drops like in most electronic
Mm.
music. So yeah, it's a special record to me in that way, that it was the first time I decided to come back to doing,
Mhm.
because I feel like I'm a proficient songwriter, but actually as an electronic music producer, I'm still learning. Like it's very new to me.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I think that's one of the things that's kind of exciting about your music too, because you're meshing a lot of different influences and creating sounds that maybe aren't always that obvious, you know? So
yeah.
I think that's part of the
Oh,
also of the project.
thanks. That's nice to hear. Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things that like some people hear it, other people don't. Like
Mhm.
I think it's very difficult these days to be original. I have a lot of conversations with a good friend of mine who's a fine artist in Stockholm,
Mhm.
and a really really good, very good DJ and digger. And um, I won't say his name because he'll kill me if I say this, but we talk about it often, how it's very um, yeah, I don't know, like electronic music is really, it's hard to make. it's hard to do well, and it's hard to do with originality.
Mm.
Like it's really hard, and a lot of stuff is good, but it sounds just, it's not much. It's not reinventing the wheel or anything. It's just deep house, or it's just techno, and
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a huge challenge. It's hard to reinvent the norms or change the norms or create an original sound. I think that's something that many people kind of struggle with when they enter into electronic music.
yeah. Finding a voice
Mm.
without being able to have a voice. Really, it's like usually in music, I'd say in pop music, that's the one characteristic of lots of bands that really sets them apart. Is it's very difficult to hear. And maybe in the 60s and 70s, you could really hear like a rock guitarist having a specific style of playing guitar.
Yeah.
But really, it's about the voice, like in each band, and the storytelling is really the aspect that makes something unique.
Mhm.
Whereas in electronic music, it's like everyone's got an 808. Well,
Yeah.
if you're really rich, you've got one, but lots of people have 808s or 808 plugins or 909s or 303s or 606s or Juno or whatever they're using, M1.
Mhm.
So it's hard to really sound different. Like it's like you've really got to squeeze the lemon dry to find those little bits that are unique.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in any way I'm doing that
Mhm.
for someone, that's great. But I don't really feel like I am. I feel like I'm still yet to do something that's very original, I think.
Mhm. Mhm. And if we move on from that period of your first album, or move on within that period, back in 2021, you released Island Impressions as well. And this
Yes.
album was more Swedish based in a way because it was recorded on an island in the Stockholm archipelago. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was recorded in Ingere, like which on Ingere. So yeah, it was during COVID. So we kind of moved actually towards the end of COVID from Copenhagen to Sweden.
Mhm.
Um, like yeah, my wife now we got engaged, um, and and decided to move to Sweden because she'd finished university and she wanted to work in Sweden. And so we moved into central Stockholm for about 4 months. We were on Östgötagatan, and like it was really loud, and it was still, things were weird with COVID. Like there were no gigs or anything like that, and it was expensive living there. The rent was fucking crazy. Like, and I was just like, this is not sustainable. Like right now, so yeah, I went on to Block It, and I found like this small, or this summer house
Mhm.
on Ingera with an ocean view and like a little dock or jetty. And this lady was renting this out for like literally half the price of what we were paying. And we had a car at the time. And I just said to my wife, like, well, we have, like, this is, I have to live here. Like,
Yeah.
this would be amazing for me. Like, it's 30 minutes into the city, but like, so we may as well do this because when we live in Australia, like it takes 30 minutes to get everywhere, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
so, yeah, that record was more of a concept record about, yeah, being an Australian, moving out into the archipelago and just being absolutely blown away by how beautiful that is. Like it is just stunning. And um, I feel like um, it's so unique. Like I've just never seen nature like that in my life.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So very nature inspired, but at the same time, would you say that it's a more of an experimental album, or that you had even more, you tried your way around with the electronic sound that you had on that album?
Yeah, a little bit. It got dark. It's darker. Can you hear that? That it's a bit, just a
Oh,
bit. It's a little bit darker. There are some songs in there that are just darker and more contemplative. Like thinking more about life. Like, it's more introspective in the sense that I, like we're in COVID and there's no gigs and all the clubs are shut, and but like I've got this there's such a duality to this whole time, I feel like, for me, because it was just so inspiring, but also that, it's like you check your emails every day and like nothing's happening. So
Yeah.
it was, I feel like that being out there saved me in some ways from like just quitting music entirely. It gave me like an avenue to like write or talk or record what I was seeing or feeling in those, like views. So yeah, no, it's darker than anything I think I've written. But actually, a lot of people say to me that that's their favorite record. So maybe I should write dark music. I don't know. Like,
Really? That's very interesting.
mm,
Hmm.
yeah.
Maybe also makes sense because of the period and like being out on an island, it's a little bit more isolated and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, like I say this to a lot of my friends, and they kind of agree with me that during COVID, like I feel like in life there's so many distractions, and particularly as a musician or music producer, um, like going out for beers or having a drink with someone or catching up, like it's so distracting to like what you're trying to do.
Mm.
And so COVID presented this opportunity to like literally just knuckle down and kind of just do what you want to do, which is like the work that you're doing, and that was music for me. So I felt like there was much more attention to detail in that record than maybe the other stuff. Like it's
Mm.
the level of concentration I don't think I could give to an album again unless there was another pandemic.
Right.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that makes sense. And at the same time, it feels like it must have been a productive period for you because I mean, even the year after in 2022, uh, you released Clock Without Hands. That's basically
Mm.
at the time we met, and which is
Yes.
an
Yeah.
album I really, really love. And there it felt like you had, I don't know, as you say, like maybe Island Impressions was more melancholic, but they felt there was some kind of forward momentum or kind of more, uh, what do you say, forward-looking momentum in that album. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because it's all about time, the theme of time as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that album, yeah, is like I mean, it's out there. Like I've spoken about it a lot. But yeah, that record's about like my wife and I lost a baby girl during the writing of that record. Her name was Astrid, um, and so Clock Without Hands is about like, yeah, time standing still, like like it's kind of like a time capsule, really, like of that moment for me and how I felt as like being a prospective father. Like, in that time recording it,
Mm.
I thought I was becoming a father,
Right,
and then as I was finishing it, like I was no longer becoming a father. And so that
right.
there's aspects of that record that are very like optimistic and just excited, and others that are,
That's the dynamic
like not.
record.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just like as with all your music, it's really more like a canvas of what's happening in your life at that time, in some sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like what, as in any art form, like I think what you're trying to do is um, be observant of, like you constantly just you're like a creep, really. Like you're observing life and what's happening around you, and you're trying to express it, really, like
Mm.
um and or feel things deeply, like so I just think that it's more that probably everyday things are interesting, and so I'd prefer to talk about real things that are happening, because I think there's more, inclusivity in that, like it's easier to connect with other people through music when you're talking about issues or
Mhm.
things, or that may be a common feeling, shared, you know, things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. I don't
No,
really know if I'm explaining that well, but
really
um,
relatable. Mm.
yeah, relatable. Exactly, it's a better word. Yeah.
And just to get back to where kind of where we are today, if we just go chronologically, but you released two singles so far this year, Shadows and Song for Julia. Uh,
Mm.
Tell us to start a little bit more about those particular songs.
Yeah. So um, I really like, Erdot, the Norwegian producer.
Hmm.
He like did a lot of production with Annie.
Hmm.
Like they were in a relationship. He actually died in the early 2000s, I think, of disease. So when he was really young, 31 or something.
Hmm.
But he wrote this Song for Annie. And like this song, I really love this song. And I liked the fact that like, it's like when when you're younger and you're dating someone and you would make a mixtape for them or something, like,
Yeah.
or burn a CD
Yeah.
for them. Like, I thought it was just so ballsy that this guy just like wrote a fucking song for this girl and he named it after her. Like, um, so yeah, I don't know. Like I felt like naming the song after her, um, and then Shadows is a different beast. That's a track about letting go of Astrid and the trauma from that pregnancy, and um, creating space for my son Ingmar, and that pregnancy, and the time when he entered the world, and those early days of being a father finally after really wanting it for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting because that's basically, if I'm not mistaken, the name of your new album is Dad Zone. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Dad Zone. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Actually, I haven't. It's so funny. Like, I haven't posted about it yet. Like, I mean, I've released the pre-order for it on Bandcamp, but I like on my socials, I haven't said that I'm putting that this music is attached to it. So I'm gonna maybe do that when we get off the phone.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
'cause that was the only thing that I could find at the moment, that was the thing that's coming up.
Yeah, it's out there. Like, I think it's obviously been sent out to like publications and stuff, but
Mm.
I actually haven't posted it to people, so I need to do that. But yeah, it's called Dad Zone.
Mhm.
I just think it's a funny title. This is more playful, this record, for sure. Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
is it gonna be released?
So it's out December 14th,
Yeah.
um, just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. And could you tell me a little bit more about like your current sound and what you've been trying to achieve with this record?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, this record. Like, so a friend of mine, DJ Pop Up, he um is like a producer and DJ based in Copenhagen.
Mhm.
He's actually living in Aarhus at the moment, but
Mhm.
he's from Copenhagen. And we were like best friends in Copenhagen. Um, so like we've collaborated on a track that's very underground, deep house track,
Mhm.
but really besides that, most of it's like in the songwriting realm. Like, it's quite there's like lots of acoustic guitar moments.
Mhm.
There's sort of lots of like, Mr. YT, like kind of deep house
Yeah.
stuff on there as well. um but it's not it's a smaller record because it kind of it kind of was sympathetic to the fact that like I'm a dad now. I just don't have as much time, so 7 songs felt like um like what I could give to it. So there's less music on it, but it's more, I don't know, it's more playful. It's reflective of moving away as well from Europe, and the struggle of like, like there's a track called IRL, in real life,
Yeah.
and that's about like having good friends in Denmark and Sweden, and just like wondering if they'll forget me, like now that I'm living
Mm.
at the end of the train tracks, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm really happy with it. Like I'm really proud of it, and like hopefully people respond to it. But it is probably a more of a step even further towards the kind of the more pop stuff foundations that I came from, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Even more back to the origins a little bit.
yeah, more to the kind of um poppiest side of
Mhm.
my how I sort of cut my teeth in the music industry, as a younger guy. But um and like I just, yeah, I'm still fascinated. I don't know, like I feel like it's so difficult to get that balance of cool, not cool, but just, like tasteful underground music,
Mhm.
but with vocals. Like maybe it's not possible, but
Mhm.
um there are people out there that do it really well. So yeah, I'm trying to, that's my pursuit.
Yeah. And I mean, if we go back to your Denmark days, like, could you tell us a little bit more about the Northern Underground, like that movement, that label? Like, what was the idea and what was the whole concept behind that?
Well, the whole concept was that, um, yeah, it's a very long story, but like the whole concept was that Northern Underground was supposed to be a label that put out pan-Scandinavian records.
Hmm.
Like, but like there was an issue with the person that was managing me. Like I was managed by someone in Denmark at the time, and um, they had like a gambling issue, and they were a distributor and manager for other people too. And
Hmm.
so, um, like all this, like it was just, there's this thing about money being taken. And
Oh, really?
so, yeah, it was just this whole thing. So in the end, like I couldn't really afford to like press other people's records.
Hmm.
Like, so it kind of turned into this thing where, um, like it was just me putting out Sonny Ism records,
Hmm.
um, on there. Um, and but I've put out, like, I think the way I've tried to do it is like, generally speaking,
Hmm.
I like there's a collaboration in some way with the friend from Scandinavia,
Hmm.
um, on each record. So I mean, not from Scandinavia, from Denmark, really. Like all my Danish friends have featured on there, um, like via either a remix or, say, on this record, the co-writing track that I did with DJ Pop Up.
Hmm.
So that was the intention of it, but sadly, it's only become mostly a graveyard for Sonny Ism records. Yeah,
Sounds very sad. I mean, you've released proper records on vinyl through that label, so I think it's a very nice initiative, and that the fact that you took the time and energy to create it and release your music that way is a testament to itself in some way.
yeah. Thanks. I feel like you're the only person that cares about what I do.
No, no, no. I don't think so. I don't think so. Do you think?
Can I speak to you every day? This might keep me doing music, hearing you like um gloat about what I do.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, man. I'm really happy to hear that. No, but I feel it's
Yeah.
exciting. I feel it's exciting also that, especially the new album coming out, and, maybe then at some stage in the next year or so we can see you perform that in Stockholm again, perform your music.
Yeah, I'd love to, like, I was back in at we tried to sort this out in summer, actually. We were visiting my son Ingmar. Like we were introducing him to my wife's family because he was born in Australia, actually. So we went back to Europe, and I did a little, like, a DJ thing at Rish, but I feel like, again, like going back to, um, I feel like Snicker and you are the only like Mika, like the only people that like I feel like are into what I do there. So I never get booked for anywhere besides playing at Rish. But it'd be nice to
Mm.
at some point come down and or go up
Yeah,
to Stockholm and do some like a proper show. I'd love to play live actually there. It would be fun. Yeah.
that could be an interesting thing just to get a
Yeah.
chance in the DJ gigs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to like sing some songs and like do something kind of heavy but live. Like it would be nice. But yeah, we'll see how things go.
Yeah, we'll see how things go. I mean, before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you think people should know or be aware of or look forward to when it comes to your music and what's going on?
Oh, well, like I think there might be a little bit of a break
Hmm.
from Sonnyism
Mm.
for a little bit. I want to do after this record because I feel like I've done an album a year for like 5 years. 5 years. Well, I did like this is my fourth album, so every year I've done an album,
Yeah.
and before that I did like two EPs a year. So I kind of want to let there's just a lot of music out there that for this project, and I'd like people to sort of marinate in that for a little while. And then I'm working on a down tempo project at the moment,
Okay.
um, which will be a bit more like which I want to feature just female vocals on actually.
Interesting. Mm.
Yeah. Um,
So that
so
would
it's more like 90s kind of
probably.
yeah, Doherty column kind of yeah, it's sounding fun. So that might be the next thing I do after this record, I think. But other than that, I just actually want to say thanks to you for doing this. It's nice to talk about electronic music.
Yeah.
Um,
You, man, for taking the time. I mean, it's not obvious to find a good time slot between Melbourne and Stockholm, anyways. So I'm very happy that
yeah,
we finally made it happen. So
yeah, we did. It's a shame we couldn't do it in person. But that time was really crazy for us being over there.
yeah. No
Um,
worries at all. No worries at all. And I really hope we can catch up next time in Stockholm. Uh,
Definitely.
yeah. So thank you so much for coming to the podcast, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
And for everyone back home, make sure to support the new album that's coming out 14th of December, Dad Zone. You can find it through the Bandcamp that is posted on Sonny Ism's Instagram and all of his pages on socials. So that was it for episode 29 of Electronic Talks podcast. Thank you so much, and see you again next time.